What's happening down in New Orleans? Where's your dollar? Where's your Stafford Act money? Makes no sense. Tells me the bullet hasn't been taken out. Tells me that somehow the people down in New Orleans, they don't care about as much.
Well, that was then presidential candidate Barack Obama in 2007, suggesting that racism possibly affected relief efforts for the folks suffering after Hurricane Katrina. The speech was covered 5 years ago in part, but this particular part of his off-script comments got little to no coverage from what we can see before they resurfaced this week, and they were posted on thedailycaller.com. Now the president's deputy campaign manager is calling on the Romney campaign to denounce the video, saying that the Romney camp needs to stand up and say it was wrong for the Daily Caller to post the president's own comments earlier in the week. Listen.
Well, I think allies to Mitt Romney are responsible, and I think that the Romney campaign should stand up and do the right thing and say that it was irresponsible to do something like that, particularly on the eve of the debate. And it was so transparent what they were trying to do. Mitt Romney has been taking heat for weeks now for his secret comments behind closed doors with his wealthy donors that he didn't care about half of this country. Their answer to that is to put out an already publicly released speech that the president gave 5 years ago, where he was talking about the reaction to Hurricane Katrina and the inadequate reaction to Hurricane Katrina.
Joining me now, Chris Plant, who's host of the Chris Plant Show on WMAL, and Marjorie Clifton, who's a former consultant to the Obama campaign and principal of Clifton Consulting. Panel, welcome. Marjorie, let me start with you on this. How is it irresponsible to post comments that the president himself made?
Well, look, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with Stephanie Cutter on this. I think that while I'd love to give credence to Tucker Carlson and the Daily Caller as having broken through, and we love Tucker, but the fact of the matter is this video fell flat, and its mission didn't really break through. It was, as I mentioned, a video that came out in 2007, and what it was trying to do didn't really work. Now, I think the Romney campaign rightly has not really talked about it. They're not addressing it, and I think keeping their distance from it is probably the best move at this point.
Right. They came out when they were asked and said, we didn't have any involvement in it, which is what you know, the Obama camp came out and said, Chris, after their super PAC, you know, the super PAC that's supporting President Obama, came out with that ad, remember the cancer ad suggesting that Mitt Romney had killed off a woman.
Yeah, and in fact, Stephanie Cutter was caught red-handed in a flat-out lie surrounding that Joe Soptic, you know, Mitt Romney gave my wife cancer commercial. Stephanie Cutter was in the middle of that. She was exposed as a liar at that time. She is one of the lead sort of distractors at this point. They're trying to change the subject from the president's disastrous performance, and perhaps understandably, in the debate the other night. But to pretend that Mitt Romney should in any way comment on a piece of videotape from an event that was open to the press, where the president is exposed as either a liar and a fraud or an incompetent and a fraud who's trying to polarize along lines of race, is laughable on the face of it. And I mean, it would be laughable if it weren't so outrageous that they are trying to saddle the Romney campaign with Tucker Carlson and the Daily Caller exercising their First Amendment right to freedom of the press.
But that begs the underlying question, Marjorie, about whether, like, why does this bother Stephanie Cutter at all? Why doesn't she come out and say, yeah, those are my guys' remarks. I don't find anything controversial about them. Daily Caller, go for it. Anybody, he stood up on the stage and made those comments, and we stand by them.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, you got to look at last week. It was the Romney campaign attacking the Obama campaign for character assassination. This week, it's the reverse. This is the name of the game. As you said, it's about moving the focus. Now, it is highlighting, and I will say, what the Daily Caller did was sort of unfairly characterize this as racism. There's something very different to be said between racial bias and racism. And even George W. Bush said, coming out of Katrina, he told the nation, and then remarks he made actually echoed Obama's word for word in terms of highlighting racial bias and what was happening on the ground in New Orleans post-Katrina. So that is not, I mean, that is factually not incorrect, and what he was saying was not incorrect, but characterizing it as him being a racist, given that the past 4 years of his administration have done nothing to characterize him as treating audiences differently, nor has he played the race card on the campaign. So I think that's an important distinction to make.
Go ahead, Chris.
You know, the fact is that what President Obama was saying to that crowd was designed to inspire feelings of racial animosity, and what he was saying was factually incorrect, and this is why he's either a liar or an incompetent. The Senate had just waived the Stafford Act 2 weeks prior to the
Stafford Act
speech.
requires the locals receiving federal aid to chip in a certain amount.
And that's what President Obama was specifically referring to as the unequal and unfair treatment of a terrible and racist white central government in Washington under George Bush, denying them the same consideration that was given to Manhattan after September 11th and Florida after Hurricane Andrew. It was wrong. It was factually incorrect. And he either knew that and was lying, or he didn't know that but should have, because his body, the Senate, had just waived the Stafford Act a short time before. It's outrageous that you suggest that, you know, looking at what the president said at a public event that was, you know, at least videotaped by the press, even if they didn't cover it appropriately or properly at the time, is completely ridiculous on the face of it. And again, it's another effort to just about the president's failure, about the economy, about jobs,
I want to ask
about their phony
but I want to
unemployment
ask you about the second part of Stephanie Cutter's comment, because she says they should do the right thing and say it was irresponsible, particularly on the eve of a debate. And now that has some folks wondering if this is an attempt to offer an excuse for, you know, what was perceived by many as a lackluster performance by President Obama at the debate. You know, it was in his head.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a response to everything that was already being said in the press. And again, I have a real problem with characterizing it as racism. And I think it was more pointing to, again, Obama talking to an audience of his own people.
No, but I get that. But
way.
I'm trying to focus more on why
people.
Stephanie Cutter would be commenting on this at all, and why she would be mentioning the debate.
Well, it was still running in the press. I mean, you look at it even days after the debate. Was the debate one that did not favor Obama? Absolutely. It was not his best showing. And again, we know this is the nature of campaigns. Well, how can we resurface and point the finger at the other guy?
All right, guys. I got to go because I have a very special guest coming up next.
His own people?
Chris.
Your
His own
husband?
people?
Chris, I got to go. I got somebody who outranks you coming up. Thank you both so much. Up next, right after this break, what is my husband doing here?